It's Tuesday, November 7, 2017. I'm Greg DePalma, and you're listening to the Our Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft. On this edition of Dan Shonka's Scouting Section, Dan will let you know how Notre Dame redshirt senior Quenton Nelson has charged up his draft board as the highest-rated lineman in the 2018 draft, and why his teammate Mike McGlinchey is his top-rated senior offensive tackle prospect. All right, thanks for tuning in once again to Dan Shonka's Scouting Section. I'm Greg DePalma, and Dan Shonka joining us, of course. So, Dan, being that you're an Iowa resident, what do you think about those Hawkeyes? Just crushed Ohio State. That had to be pretty huge in the state of Iowa.
Well, I tell you, it was, but that's where those top six in the country come to die, because Iowa State nailed Oklahoma and TCU, and when they're in the top five, and then Ohio State came in here, and Iowa didn't want to be outdone, and they put it on and the Buckeyes. And I watched that tape back this afternoon, and it was really, I mean, that score was closer than the game, because, I mean, Iowa dominated in every facet. The offensive line was tremendous. The play calling, Brian Ferentz did a great job of mixing things up, and then the defense, who generally is so consistent week in and week out, they were just top notch. And Josh Johnson. Here's another thing. That's why, when you're evaluating these players, guys like Josh Johnson and other ones around the country, they emerge because they finally get a chance to play. And Johnson, for instance, he just played one game this year, and his first year as a starter, and he just exploded with 3 interceptions, and now he's one of the top defensive backs in the country. So that's when guys are getting their chance to play, they show what they can do. That's why it's so hard to evaluate. You're not only evaluating 2 years of players now, then you're evaluating guys that by mid-season they're not the same player they were last year because they were on the bench. But anyway, a lot of excitement in Iowa throughout the state, and it's a great win for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, and Iowa, of course, will be in Wisconsin this week, so another big game for Iowa, especially because Wisconsin's undefeated. But this is the college football. We talk a lot about this the last year or two, about the talent infusion. A lot of the juniors leaving, exodus to the NFL, and the more that happens, the talent just isn't there as much anymore in college. I think that's why we're seeing a lot of crazy results, and we're not really seeing the dominant teams, because we're not even sure how good Alabama and Georgia are just yet. Especially Alabama's reputation, and we got to find out a little bit more about them too. But hey, it's wide open, which is also another reason why they need to have more than 4 teams in a playoff system.
Right, and I kept saying Johnson. It's Josh Jackson, the corner for Iowa, that was outstanding, number 15. So that just tells you. I've looked at him, and he's played about 9 games now, and now I'm getting to know his name.
There you go. And hey, you can not only is it important to come up with a game like that, but to do it in a huge game. That you put a little extra star on that as well, don't you? When a player can not only have a big game, but to do it in a big moment.
Oh, exactly. And he's been when he got his chance to play, he's stepping up, and that's exactly what you want to see.
All right, so big game this week, Miami, Notre Dame. This is definitely one of the top 3 games of the week. It might even be the best game with the reputation of these two schools and the history. Let's start with Nelson, because this is a very good offensive line for Notre Dame. It is the reason why Notre Dame is where they are right now. It's because that running game and an offensive line has done a fantastic job. But Nelson, what has impressed you so far this season about his game that has moved him all the way to the head of your offensive line class? I mean, boy, what a dramatic rise.
Well, first of all, when we were putting together our preview and things, we understood from the people at Notre Dame that he was going to come back.
Okay.
Well, now that's not so true, So then we were grinding tape. We saw tape on him this summer, and then went and started really hammering him pretty good again. And he's such a dominant. I mean, he's clearly just the best offensive lineman. He finishes blocks. He's a very physical guy. I mean, he's built. I mean, he's 330-pound guard that can move. And so I think that all those things right now, the tackle class, a couple of the top tackles, Trey Adams from Washington said he's coming back. He got hurt this year.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Williams got hurt, the tackle early for the University of Texas, and he came back. And I didn't see the Texas game this week, but he was supposed to play a little bit in that game. So those guys are coming back. But I mean, Orlando Brown is really a good tackle, and the teammate for Nelson, McGlinchey, is a good tackle, but I don't think he's one of those top 5 or 6 guys that we've seen at times in the last 5 years. So
how rare is that for you to
speed rush?
How rare is it for you to like a guard over a tackle in the draft?
Very rare. Usually I like the guy that I like the best football player, and he's a dominant. I mean, he's a true top 10 player, not like it was artificially pushed up. The guards a couple of years ago, you remember, when there wasn't any other linemen around, and so Warmack went in the first top 10, and so did Cooper, and now Cooper is getting to play. He got, after being cut so many times, he's down in Dallas, getting in there at left guard right now. But so no, it's very rare. I mean, and like I said, I don't know if he'll end up going to the top 10. But right now he's the best offensive lineman. It's going to take a lot of other people to catch up with him.
I know we'll talk more about this as we get closer to the draft if he does in fact come out. But is somebody like DeCastro? I mean, I don't know. I don't know why he's on my mind probably because how good he is. But is DeCastro maybe the best guard to come out over the past 5 or 6 years? And if so, how would Nelson compare?
Well, I think Scherf from Washington.
Brendan Scherf. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He is in that mix. Now, as you know, both those guys were our top rated linemen and things coming out that particular. I mean, DeCastro, we absolutely loved him out of Stanford and down, and then he ended up getting injured early in his career there, and then came back and has been a Pro Bowl Bowl caliber player every year. And Scherf is outstanding, but he's hurt and he's out right now. He's got nicked up a couple of weeks ago, and so he's out. But okay. I would think that Nelson has got the potential maybe to pass both of those guys.
Wow.
I mean, he's a powerful man now, and he's very explosive and finishes blocks. I mean, those are things I like about those two guys. I mean, you can't really tell till they get in the league and they're smacking guys that are as good or better than they are, like Scherf and DeCastro have been doing. But he's got the potential to be better than those two. Let's put it that way.
Okay, all right. Now with McGlinchey, in your 2018 Ourlads NFL Draft Preview brochure, which, by the way, you can purchase right now at ourlads.com with your choice of subscriptions, you mentioned he has an outstanding combination of height, length, and bulk. So is that combination superior enough to cancel out his weaknesses to become an all-pro player? And, of course, you can elaborate on what his weaknesses are.
Well, the thing is, like a lot of these guys, they've got to be able to handle edge speed. And that's the thing. And then you can't overset where the outside, the defensive end can come underneath you. And being tall, he's really got to work to bend. And you've got to, for instance, Nelson, he's built like a refrigerator. When he bends, I mean, he's just got power there.
Okay.
When you're a taller, linear guy like McGlinchey, you've got to when you got to work to bend. You're not as explosive as, say, Nelson is, because he's already there and boom. I mean, it's just like when he unloads on you. I mean, he pops you and brings you to your knees. But anyway, McGlinchey he's more. I don't want to say he's a finesse guy, but he's not the killer that I don't know if he's got the killer instinct in him that Nelson does.
Now, I just wanted to ask you, this is more of a terminology thing because you mentioned that McGlinchey also is a good athlete. Um, and in the brochure, you mentioned he struggles to adjust to a moving target. So explain the difference there so I know the terminology. Good athlete, but see, if he struggles to adjust to a moving target, then what is it? What is it that as an athlete is one thing, but being able to adjust to a moving target and get those edge rushers, what makes that a different concept?
Well, sometimes, it's instincts too, and the ability to redirect. And
Okay.
Now athletically, you can have really good feet and say you keep your feet with a good base underneath you, and, you balance up with your long arms and things like that, and moving your feet and controlling that fender. I think that what you need to do is, if you've got to be able, you can still be a good athlete, but still have struggled technique wise.
Okay.
To get so
Sure.
It's a technique. The great ones are the really good athletes that are great technique players.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay, now finally, what positions do you think Nelson and McGlinchey is? It's strictly Nelson will play guard, McGlinchey will play tackle. Is McGlinchey or is there potential for any other positions for both these guys? What will be their best position at the next level?
Well, I think guard will be Nelson's. I mean, he'll be a Pro Bowl guard. I think that. I don't think there's any question about that. If he stays healthy, I mean, he's just such a powerful guy. He can adjust on the run. And by the way, in our newsletter that just came out last week, that's in the mail and things people will be getting, we did a report in there on Nelson.
Okay.
Because of, like I said, we probably should have. We don't write reports on juniors anyway in the preview, but we thought that since Nelson is coming out here, we think he's coming out now, whereas before we didn't.
Okay.
We thought we'd do a little write up on him. So, that will be people will be able to read about him there.
And McGlinchey, is he going to be definitely, when he gets drafted, they're going to put him at left tackle, or is he going to start as a right tackle?
Well, see, early in his career, and Stanley was there, he was the right tackle.
Okay. And
Stanley was the left guy. I think, because there's such a need for left tackles, Greg, I think they'll probably work him on the left first. And then if he struggles some, then maybe without getting him a lot of help, putting a tight end over there or a back helping chip, maybe they'll just start him out at right. I think it will depend on the team and who drafts him.
All right, Dan, I appreciate your insight on both Notre Dame Fighting Irish linemen today. We'll talk to you real soon.
Great, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that is Dan Shonka, and we want to thank him, as always, for his scouting report here on Dan Shonka's Scouting Section on the Arledge Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft. Go to Arledge.com and order a subscription of your choosing, including the 2018 Arledge NFL Draft Preview brochure that's available right now, and see where both Quenton Nelson and Mike McGlinchey are rated on the latest Top 33. That's at Arledge.com. And thank you for tuning in to the Arledge Football Radio Network.